This video had no script. What was said came from the heart. Good morning, Mary and the Becker family. Greg Bubalo, as you know, and we've got Kevin here. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to make it to the memorial for Gary, but we wanted to actually send a film to remember Gary, because I've heard someone say that you only truly die when the last person who remembers you dies, and we fondly remember Gary Becker. We all wouldn't be here and together without Gary.
Sure, keep him in our hearts and minds as long as possible. You know, he was a great mentor for me. He gave me a great opportunity and all the tools necessary to be a successful lawyer, and for that I'm eternally grateful. And as you might notice, Mary, I am wearing this jacket in homage to Gary. I think he would be pleased to see me in this. So.
but neither of us could find our ascots, unfortunately.
You know, it wasn't for lack of trying. You know, we went to every Walmart in the Tri-County area, and once again, they're sold out. You know, in memory of him, I think. I met Greg, if you recall, Mary, at Gary's 60th surprise birthday party, which was a roast. And I'm sure a lot of Gary's family and friends may remember that. That was the first day I met Greg, and Mary asked me to be one of the roasters, so I made her sign an agreement that I would not be terminated afterwards. So, we had a lot of fun.
I remember getting a call from a headhunter and saying, "Are you interested in trying to actually take over or manage a plaintiff's firm?" Because I had been a defense lawyer for 15 years. I was actually at that time working for an insurance company, so I was in the heart of darkness. And at first I thought it was a test by the Defense Research Institute of my loyalty. But
it probably was.
It was absolutely.
It was, yeah.
But so I didn't have much loyalty. At least to the defense side of things. I always like to say that I converted to a plaintiff's lawyer on the road to Damascus when Gary Becker appeared to me.
Yes, in a vision. In a vision.
Why?
Yes.
Why are thou not prosecuting the right people? And so that's how I got that
Gary, put your heart back in.
I know.
Yeah, and so, but you know, Gary, for those of watching this video that know him from his California days and all of that, he was a great pioneer in the law for injured people. When he started practicing law in Kentucky, no one else was advertising on television, and his goal was to bring awareness to the public that they were entitled to compensation against rich and powerful corporations, and that they could have access to a very skilled lawyer, and it wouldn't cost them anything unless there was a recovery. So it was not intimidating. Now, we got a storm of controversy because of the fact that we were the first. I joined Gary about a year after he started practicing.
So what year was that?
Gary started in 1985, and I started a year later. And but I do have a funny story about that. You know, at the time we were just taking anything and everything, just trying to get some cases. And I had a case where this lady was at Winn-Dixie and a bottle of Pepsi blew up on her leg. And so I inherited this file, and I flipped open the file, and I called the lady and said, "Hey, I'm your new lawyer." And she said, "Hey." And I said, "How's your leg?" And she said, "My leg's fine. Why?" And I said, "Well, I knew this bottle of Pepsi blew up on your leg, and I thought it hurt your leg." And she said, "No, it just ruined my blue jeans." And I said, "Well, how much do your blue jeans cost?" And she said, $27. So I settled the case for $27. And when I took the check to Gary, I said, "Gary, what do you want me to charge this lady?" And he looked at me like I had three eyes and said, $9. And so I said, I get it. So we laughed about that for years. I used to say we're like Ghostbusters, no case too small, no fee too large, jokingly. But we were very serious about what we were doing and trying to help people. And when Gary was on TV, there was only one other person advertising, and it was very schlocky and corny and sort of almost a cartoonish. And Gary was always the product. He was always in character, if you will. Natalie dressed, very focused, I've never seen a person more in control of his emotions than Gary. I think over the years I've seen him visibly angry twice in my life, and that's difficult because he was so in control of his emotions.
Well, I met him in 1999, and I was dubious about the advertising business at first, but then after getting into it and understanding how it changed people's lives, I became a total believer. When I first met Gary, he looked at me and said, I'd like you to take a personality test. And I said, I'm not going to do it. You won't hire me if you know my personality, because it's really bad. And
he told me I had too much personality.
He said, well, since you have so many other credentials, I'll skip the personality thing and we'll just move forward. But it all turned out all right. I was especially interested in the FinFin cases that he had, because I had read a lot about the liability of the company. I thought they were criminals
it's awful.
In essence.
Yes, it's like a bad John Grisham novel, those cases.
And I saw so many people who had been injured by this horrible drug, by a disease called primary pulmonary hypertension, that essentially slowly suffocates them to death.
Yeah.
That they would have no way of knowing that they were suffering from that disease if it weren't for Gary Becker's ads.
Absolutely. And he was fearless. He had no fear to take on rich, powerful companies. In fact, I think that he adopted that as part of his mission, other than his charitable missions, certainly that mission. And I remember once CBS did on 60 Minutes did an unflattering portrayal of advertising lawyers. And they used a series of different ads as an example. And one of them was our ad. And Gary took great offense to that. And we hired a lawyer, and we sent him a cease and desist letter, and CBS sent him a letter of apology. Yeah, and so the way we like to tell it is, we went eye to eye with 60 Minutes, and CBS blinked. So.
The thing that Gary gave me, I think, is ability to become an entrepreneur in a true sense, because a plaintiff's lawyer is completely different than the practice that I was involved in, an hourly practice with a rather blue blood firm in town, the Ogden firm, which is now Stoll Keenan and Ogden. And the idea that you can invest your own money in a cause for justice, I became enchanted with. And Gary gave me that opportunity and turned me into a completely different person. So now I have some personality. Whether it's any better, I don't know, but that remains to be seen. And especially the drug products cases that I've now been doing, and the medical products cases that I've now been doing since 1999, have been a complete adventure. It's been a dream. It's been a John Grisham novel for me. And I really could not have done that had Gary not given me the bravery to go out, sign a note, finance the cases myself, and have enough confidence in my ability to recover for clients that have been truly harmed, and go for it against some of the biggest companies in the world. And so thanks, Gary, wherever you are, and I'm sure it's in heaven.
Well, and the family will appreciate this, that since his unfortunate passing, so many people in the legal community have reached out to me and Greg and said such nice things about Gary, and especially to Mary. All of our friends at the Masters Marketing Group, they've all been very gracious. I'm sure some of them have reached out to her as well. But he was very well respected and very well considered, and very much missed by our group of lawyer friends. I do have a funny story. I think this is one of Gary's favorites. For those of you that know Gary, you know that he loved to travel. He loved fashion. He loved arts and culture. And so the family was on a trip, I think it was in Germany, and he was ready first, which is surprising actually that he would be ready first, but he was ready first, and so the family was getting ready. They were going to go out to have a nice dinner or whatever, so he was at this bar in this very, historic hotel, probably a converted palace or something like that. And he was waiting for the family to come down, so he had, a glass of red wine at the bar. And there was a group of women across the bar, and they kept poking each other and pointing at him and giggling. And one of them finally got up the nerve to come over, and she walked over, and she kissed Gary on the cheek, and she said, "I'm sure you're a German cat, and you probably don't speak English, but we think you're somebody of royal blood." And Gary smiled and said, "Actually, I'm a trial lawyer from Indiana."
So we also have put together a lot of Gary's old commercials, a lot of our commercials referring to Gary. And I think the first one is almost like an old GE documentary when he's sitting behind a desk.
Yes.
And has such an incredible presence, really.
Yes.
On the TV. Very charismatic. And so with that, we'll let you see these, and it's a trip down memory lane.
Hey, Gary Becker, why should I make a claim? Too many people are already making claims.
Actually, personal injury cases account for less than 1% of all court filings. And every time we help a client recover for a loss, it also forces the negligent party to pay more attention to safety. If we're really going to change this country, we need to be sure people are held accountable for their behavior.
If you're the victim of an automobile accident, call the Becker Law Office.
Hi, I'm Kevin Renfro, the attorney in charge of the Becker Law Office. When Gary Becker led this firm, we started advertising so regular folks could find a good lawyer. Now it's my responsibility to lead the Becker Law Office as we fight for those who've been hurt and feel they have nowhere else to turn. If you've been injured and it wasn't your fault, please call the Becker Law Office. We can help you get the money you deserve.
Serious, experienced, results. Call the Becker Law Office for a free consultation. Just dial 3s. If you've been hurt in a car wreck, is the insurance company trying to bluff you and settle your case for less? How do you get the big settlement you may deserve? Don't bet on the insurance company being fair if you've been seriously injured. The insurance adjuster may try and pay you less than you deserve. That's when you make the right move and call the winning team. Call the Becker Law Office.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, don't gamble with the insurance company. Call the Becker Law Office at 1-8884-BECKER.
Well, Gary certainly considered himself the product, if you will, and so it was always a very high quality, very serious production. And Gary knew that would be the struggle in attempting to become an advertising lawyer when no one else was doing it, and that's why he was such a pioneer in our field, because it was sincere, and it was ethical, and it was honest. And I think that's why he was so successful, because it was so sincere and true to his beliefs and what he wanted to do to help people.
And these commercials were designed not for people in country clubs and who are already lawyered,
yes,
and who understood, how to pull the levers of power, but for ordinary people who find themselves in difficult situations, being puzzled and simply unable to know how to go forward. That's why there's a real sense of education here, and certainly with our products liability advertisements, that's so, because people would have never had any idea that a product was dangerous unless we brought that information to them. So I think that's important to remember about these commercials too. So for those of you who aren't in the Louisville area, there's a pretty big local celebrity on radio, a comedian, Terry Miners. Of course, everyone in Louisville, if you mentioned his name, would absolutely know who he is. And Terry and Gary had a love-hate relationship, mainly Terry loved to make fun of Gary, and Gary was very tolerant and receptive to that. And in fact, at his 60th birthday party, Terry specifically appeared to roast him with so many other local important people, honestly, showing up, including Kevin Renfro, who was one of the main
I thought you said
roastees.
Local important people.
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
I am
you're
local.
Right. But Terry Miners was nice enough to do an old satire of Gary when he was at his height. Terry would make fun of Gary as being the Becker Law Office and would have a running gag on his radio show about the Becker Law Office. And so with that introduction, you can see this videotape, which I think is hilarious and is meant in good fun. Following is some satire from Terry Miners. You'll see in the video that he very graciously recorded for us that he's math challenged, that he thinks 33 1/3%, which is what Gary usually got as a fee, is actually equal to 100%. I hope you enjoy.
I'm Gary Becker from the Becker Law Office. Let me tell you something. I choose all sides. Do you like these people or these people? Doesn't matter. I'm for you. I'll take any side as long as I get paid. And I don't get paid until you get paid. In fact, I get paid most of what you get paid. Did your little pet get his foot chewed off by a fox? It doesn't matter. We'll sue every fox in this world until we get all the money. I'll keep most of it. That idiot Miners thinks he's making fun of me, but I get free commercials on all of their radio stations in here. He's a moron. They could charge me $200 per spot, but he does it for free. What an idiot. I'm Gary Becker. Call me. We'll get some money for you, but most of it for me.
Greg and I have also received so many warm wishes and condolences to express to the family from former employees. And so you'll see some of them, wanted to do a specific video, and so we have attached a few of those for the family. We could have gotten dozens more, but we didn't want this to prattle on forever. But I think it's a great representation of the effect that he had on our employees as well. And so I hope you enjoy their videos as well.
The year is 1990. Gary has scheduled the office for a trust building seminar at Otter Creek. Names are pulled from a hat to form teams of 3. Alas, Gary and I are on the same team with one of the quiet secretaries from the office. The story we are given is there has been a plane crash into the side of a mountain and we have survived. Gary asked each of us what we do. What do we do now? The secretary said softly, I would stay with the plane. I was next to give my opinion. I would leave and get help. Gary's answer, I would leave and get help. The leader of the trust building gave what he considered to be the correct answer. Stay with the plane. Gary leaned over and looked at me over the top of his glasses and said, we're right, Bonnie. That man is wrong. Once again, no one after that was ever going to tell Gary and I if we agreed on something that we were wrong. If the two of us agreed on the answer. Thank you, Gary, for being my friend, for being my mentor, and for allowing me to be a member of the family of the Becker Law Office. Bonnie Varble, paralegal.
Hello, my name is Connie Phelps. I worked for Gary Becker for 18 years, learned a lot over those years. Gary was an awesome role model for me. I felt like I grew so much over those 18 years, the way he invested into his employees, the way he cared for people. He was a great Christian man that set an awesome road for all of us to follow. He invested in his people. He had a heart for people. He had a heart for God. We know where he is, and that's what comforts me, is the thought that he has left a legacy with all of us. We know where he is and that he is at peace with the Lord, and we can all look forward to the day where we reunite and get together and have our celebration in heaven together with Gary. God bless you, Becker family. Thank you for the investment. Thank you for the time and effort you put into all of our lives. You've made a difference in this world and the world to come. God bless you.
Hi, this is Lynn Harper, and I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, where I worked for Gary Becker around 15 years. As you can see, Lexington is a beautiful area to be in, like horse country, and I enjoyed my employment at the Becker Law Office and Mr. Becker's kindness and generosity. We worked really hard, and we had a good time also. He was very generous at Christmas time, birthdays, lots of celebrations. And as I recall, right before he went to California, we were at a party, and the Beach Boys song came on. They were playing the Beach Boys song, and I said, "Oh, I just love that song." And Mr. Becker said, "Hey, would you like to dance?" Well, any other time I'd been really shy, but I'd had a few cocktails, and so I said, "Sure." So we danced, and I said, "Yes, you're going to be a beach boy in California." So it was a sweet time, and I miss him terribly. And Mary's just the sweetest thing in the whole wide world, and I wish her well. And I am very happy to send this message to all of his friends and family. What a wonderful man that Mr. Becker was, and how he really changed my life and my family's life with his generosity. And I appreciated his employment. I appreciate him being my employer. So.
Hi, I'm Barry Sears. I worked for Gary Becker in the Becker Law Office from 1999 through 2004. Really enjoyed my time there, learned a great deal about the legal profession, legal technology when it was kind of coming into the forefront, and that makes me think of my humorous story about Mr. Becker. We got our new PCs at the office. Even though I didn't witness this event, I was told that he got the new computer put in his office, the monitor, and they connected the mouse, and he turned on the computer and picked up the mouse and pointed it at the monitor, started clicking toward the monitor like a remote control for a television, not knowing that the mouse stayed on the desk on the mouse pad to work. But that's my humorous story about Mr. Becker. But he was a very warm, genuine, kind-hearted man, very good to his employees, treated us very well, treated us with a lot of respect. We all shared with the success of the firm at the time, and I really appreciated that so much from him. And he will be greatly missed. My sympathies and condolences to the family, to Mary. I know it's a big loss for all of you and all of us too. So thank you, Mr. Becker, for allowing me to the opportunity to get to know you and to work for you. Thank you. Bye.
He interviewed me, 10-minute interview. It was really nice. Didn't think I'd get hired. I practically begged him for the job. He was so different than most other people that interviewed me because he actually asked about me and didn't ask silly questions. Thought I didn't get it, and I got the job, and I've been here for 22 and a half years and loved working for him. He was a wonderful, wonderful man. He treated everyone equally. It was a family atmosphere. We had family picnics, crazy Christmas parties. They were wonderful. And I knew how he had served his church, He was a deacon in the church, and he loved his wife dearly and his kids. He showed up at my wedding and talked to everybody, and was just. And if you ever had a problem, you could go to him and talk to him. He's just a good man.
What a life.
Yeah. Yep. He's really has touched so many people, both in his legal career and in his charitable works, that he will certainly be fondly remembered for decades to come. And so we greatly express our condolences to the family. He loved the kids. You know, he didn't brag about them like some fathers do, but if you asked him about them, he certainly would tell you about all of their accomplishments, and you could see how proud he was of them. And but Gary was very in control, except at 5 p.m. If I was talking to Gary in his office and Mary showed up at the door at 5 p.m., it was time to go.
So I guess it's time for us to go. We can't stay here all day, but yes. All I can say is one thing you could say about Gary that perhaps speaks volumes about him is Gary's religion was from his heart. His compassion was genuine. And his charity was for the right reason and quiet.